and welcome to our viewers from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold Learning. And here today with me is one of our speakers for our upcoming lecture pack, the lecture pack on lactation and adversity, addressing challenges with confidence package. And with me here is Nikki Lee. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi, Kristen. So glad to see you.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here with us today. Many of our viewers are probably familiar with you, but Nikki, for our new viewers, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where in the world are you? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, I live in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the sixth largest city in the US. We're on the East Coast of the United States and spring is coming.
Oh, spring is coming. You had a very cold winter up there earlier, right?
Yes. We still have all the snow everywhere. I mean, it's really going to take a while to go away, but
Absolutely. Oh, Nikki, you have such an amazing background. You are so well known in the industry and you have decades worth of experience. You are the author of several books. Tell us a little bit about your amazing journey.
well, when I started out my career as a nurse, I got no education about breastfeeding at all. I had 6 years of education as a nurse, and I got mentioned once in 6 years that some people breastfeed. It's like, oh, well. And then I fell in love with intensive care nursing very much.
Hmm.
And then I moved into community health nursing, and I loved that too. And then I thought, well, my husband and I made a baby, and I was going to stay home for 6 weeks after the baby was born because it would be boring to stay home with a baby, of course. Ha. So nobody told me that I would fall in love and change my whole world and change. And so since that time, I've been I started out being very much involved with childbirth and breastfeeding. They were both, I was equally passionate about both of them. And
Mhm.
over the years, for me, it became difficult to sustain that level of intensity with two gigantic fields. It just, I mean, I know birth is important. I was apprenticed to a lay midwife at one point, Kristen, and
Wonderful,
did work
wonderful.
like that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. At the health department in upstate New York, where I worked, home birth was illegal.
Yes.
As part of a nurse, as a health department, I was supposed to go investigate families that had home births.
Oh,
And, the person with the official hat on comes to your door to investigate what you did. And
whoa, whoa.
they were like really anxious that I would come. And what I would do is I'd give them the paperwork and we would fill it out together, and whatever they wanted to say, I would say. And then so they ended up being, oh, I'm a friend and an advocate. It was a real surprise to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But, at some point I just had to put my passion into one more
Mhm.
than another, even though I know birth is very important and I still talk about it, but it's not that the intensity of my heart has always stayed with breastfeeding and building the relationship between parent and child. Both my parents had PTSD and I was not wanted. And
Mm.
um, that's been the foundation motivator for my life work to promote relationship of parents and babies and love.
Yes. Oh,
So
that's beautiful. You said it so beautifully. And you're right, breastfeeding and chest feeding is not only about nutrition, it's also about building this beautiful bond and love and so much more. And I know you are a holistic lactation
mhm.
consultant and you also do cranial sacral therapy. Talk a little bit about how that has developed and, what makes a holistic lactation consultant.
Well, for me, what holistic means is stepping back and looking at the whole picture.
Hmm.
And it's not just baby and breast and tongue and jaw and position. And,
Yeah.
a lot of the way I feel that breastfeeding is presented and started and taught in hospitals and from many healthcare professionals is very mechanistic, part
Yeah.
A, part B, and this,
Hmm.
and there's no, um, and then people are more than the sum of their numbers. Like
Right.
labor is more than how dilated is she, how effaced, and
Absolutely.
how many, And a baby is more than the sum of its pees and poops and feeding frequency. I mean, that's all people go home thinking, but it's about relationships. So a holistic approach considers not just the Cartesian, the mechanistic view of things, but also the view of the whole person and the relationship and the energy between them. And so I incorporate different disciplines into my work. Homeopathy and aromatherapy and
Mm.
craniosacral therapy, along with breastfeeding support, because it works.
Mhm. It,
you know, what can you do? It
uh,
works.
it works, and it sounds like a very gentle approach.
Mhm.
It's what you said is so true. We're not just the sum of pieces. We're not just It's not just the mechanics of the latch and the muscles of the mouth and the tongue and the breast and positioning. It is so much deeper. It's so much more. It is about relationships, and this I love this holistic approach that you are teaching and implementing there so much. So it's wonderful talking to you here about this as well. And now let's talk about your presentation. You're presenting on 10 steps to a breastfeeding friendly shelter, building a
Mhm.
policy. And oh my goodness, when I saw that topic, I was just, yes, oh my gosh, we need this topic, we need information on it, because I mean, for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, women in shelters, to me, that's like almost this invisible population, right? And then
Yes. Mhm.
women, pregnant women, and nursing women, there's like a lot of stigma. It's like nobody wants to talk about it. Nursing women, women pregnant in a shelter, that shouldn't really, people are like, well, let's pretend it doesn't exist, right? Do you see that as well?
Well, there are a few. I think at one point in Philadelphia, there were 12 family shelters because, there are single men that are homeless. I mean, not everybody needs shelter at some point, but we have shelters. I think there's at least 12 in the Philadelphia region that, families that are family focused, family centered, and you do get pregnant people and you do
Hmm.
get babies and all of that. Um, but the thing of it is, all the focus to me in my city, and I can't speak about anything except what I know. And remember, I'm U.S. centric, I'm Philadelphia centric, in my experience um, is very much focused on educating hospital staff
Hmm.
about breastfeeding. That's first, and then second is maybe people in community agencies and maybe a few people in some professional schools somewhere. And so the folks that work with breastfeeding big in a big way, like early childhood education and in shelters, their breastfeeding knowledge is 40 years old because no one
Mm.
has brought them up to it.
Wow. Wow.
So we people working in breastfeeding education, we need to really expand because a breastfeeding family shows up anywhere. They show up in the hospital, they show up in shelter, they show up in a childcare program, they show up in schools, they show up, any place you can imagine. So we need to really open our focus.
Hmm.
Even, I mean, hospitals do suck up a lot of energy. I understand that, but people are everywhere. So we need to be
Yeah.
everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah, need to be everywhere. Yes. So tell me about the building a policy part of this. I know this is the presentation. You don't want to give away too much, but how did it happen? How did this develop for you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a very kind of a free spirit outlier kind of practitioner.
Uh-huh.
I kind of go my own way. I haven't really been as involved in organizational thing. I mean, I just don't care for that as much as I want to work with the mothers and the babies and the
Hmm.
families and the babies. So I don't even remember how it just came to me one day that, well, I've been working in to support hospital staff and educate people that we have this policy from the World Health Organization and UNICEF.
Mm.
Oh, we need something like that for other places. We need it for shelters. In the United States, I think there's 11 states that have programs in place for childcare centers, for childcare programs. So that's kind of a growing movement. But there's been nothing for shelter.
Mm.
And then I remember one of the first people I counseled when I was working for the A Better Start program was a woman who was living in a shelter and she wanted to breastfeed and she had been alcoholic.
Mm.
And I remember having direct experience of what she had to go through to be a parent, and all the rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations get in the way of the relationship.
Right. Right.
So that was probably you just made me remember that. I forgot about her. But, you know, she was able with support. I mean, she wasn't even able to call me all the time because she did.
Right.
So there's just a need, for
Ah,
people everywhere, like you said, and they are invisible. They do get ignored. And the staff gets ignored too.
interesting. Yeah, that you mentioned the staff gets ignored too. It's so true. I feel like they often are left not with enough resources, not enough support and time also. Um,
And funding.
and funding, of course, a big one, the biggest one there, right? Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and you were at the right place. They reached the right person, and it came to you to be
Yeah.
involved in this amazing project. That's so fantastic, and we can't wait to learn more about that in your presentation here at Gold. Nikki, before I let you go, what little nugget of wisdom could you share with our viewers here?
Well, I've been really fortunate. We have a local college, university has a semester long breastfeeding course,
Hmm.
and the instructor of that course has offered to its students to go interview people with experience out in the field to learn about their journey, kind of like what you are doing with me now with this little interview. So the students call me up and they ask me that question, so I'm really prepared to answer it. And what I tell them and what I tell them is to follow two things: follow your heart and follow your curiosity.
Ah, ah.
And that would be it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Follow your heart and your curiosity. Well, it has been a pleasure sitting down here with you, chatting about your life and your amazing work and the upcoming presentation here. Thank you so much, Nikki Lee.
Thank you, Kristen.
And for our viewers, this the presentation 10 Steps to a Breastfeeding Friendly Shelter Building a Policy is, as I mentioned, part of the Lactation and Adversity Addressing Challenges with Confidence package. The package will be available on March 29th here at Gold, and you can find out more information at goldlactation.com. Thank you again, Nikki Lee, for being here with us, and thank you to our viewers. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.